politics now, major developments today surrounding Iran's nuclear program, with Iran conducting its own inspections and the UN saying Tehran's sampling at a controversial military site actually met its nuclear agency's strict standards. This as the White House says it sees indications that Iran is cooperating with nuclear inspections. Meantime, there's word the Obama administration is looking for the Pope's help now in securing the release of the Americans held hostage in Iran. Joining me now, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and a Republican presidential candidate. Great to have you on The Real Story, Senator. So what are you to make of the fact that Iran is doing its own testing at these sites and that the administration is saying, well, it looks like they're playing by the rules?
Well, what could possibly go wrong here? This is a joke. Iran gets to do the samples. Nobody can be with them when they test the samples. I'm going to stop all funding to the International Atomic Energy Agency. I'm going to try to until we see the side deal. The idea
How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that, Senator?
Have a vote on the floor of the Senate, say we're going to suspend all funding until they give us the side agreement with Iran. This whole process is a joke. It's a dangerous joke. It would be funny if it wasn't so dangerous. So we're going to let every Democrat and Republican, I hope, vote on whether or not you want to take American taxpayer dollars to give it to an international organization that will not allow the Congress to look at a deal that affects our national security.
Okay, so it sounds like you're in line with Senator Ted Cruz, who also believed that those 60 days should not actually start because he doesn't believe that Congress actually has had all the information. You would agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the side deal is a breach of their agreement. Absolutely.
Okay. Let's talk about the fact that now the White House apparently going to try and talk to the Pope about securing the release of those 4 American hostages in Iran. Many people believe that that should have been part of this whole deal from the get-go.
I think my Sunday school teacher could have gotten these people out. If you gave my Sunday school teacher $100 billion, they would have gotten the 4 hostages out. This is a new low for me. This deal with Iran is dangerous to the region. It's a death sentence to Israel. You're giving an Ayatollah $100 billion with no requirement to change his behavior, and you couldn't get 4 American hostages out, a pathway to a bomb, a missile to deliver it. If I'm President of the United States, we'll set this deal aside, and the hostages will come home. But having to rely upon the Pope, to me, is a new low here.
Yeah, well, they could have asked him, by the way, before he actually came to America. I mean, you know, so it seems interesting. All right, now fallout from the mess in Syria and the news that the administration spent $500 million to put just a few fighters on the ground there. In fact, I think now they say that the U.S. has trained 9.
Well, again, it goes back to President Obama not understanding the role of leading from the front. 3 years ago, we all begged him to help the Free Syrian Army when they were intact, impose a no-fly zone. Assad was on the ropes, a no-fly zone, and Obama said no, and we predicted that the army, Free Syrian Army, would collapse. They have. Gretchen, there's nobody left in Syria to train. He let that window close. It's going to be a lot harder now, but you're going to need a regional army to go in and to destroy ISIL and push Assad out. And if Assad doesn't leave, the war never ends. So this is a complete mess. And Syria is, the worst is yet to come. And these guys are coming here. And Lebanon and Jordan are going to collapse if we don't deal with the problem in Syria. President Obama screwed this up.
Not to mention the refugee crisis. Okay.
Yes.
Donald Trump reacting today on Fox and Friends to the controversy that erupted after he didn't correct a man who attended one of his town halls. That man called President Obama a Muslim. Listen to this, Senator.
I have no obligation, moral or otherwise, to defend the president. I mean, I'm not supposed to speak up. Last night, they took some pretty vicious shots at me during the Emmy Awards. I don't think I'm going to see President Obama come to my defense.
How would you have responded to a question like that?
Well, number one, I think you tell your children, you know, it's not what Johnny or Susie does, it's what you should do. What I would have done is I would have corrected the man and said the following. I don't doubt President Obama's faith. And here's what I would have told him. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 35 times. Radical Islam is a threat to humanity, and the biggest victims of radical Islam are other Muslims, and that if I'm president, we're going to rally people within the faith, the overwhelming majority, and together we're going to destroy radical Islam. That's what I've learned from my visits to the region, that most moms and dads in the region, in the Muslim world, don't want to turn their daughters over to ISIL. That's what I would have said.
Okay, and I know you've also been responding to Dr. Ben Carlson and his comments about a Muslim in the White House. You have been tweeting out that he needs to apologize to American Muslims. He's a good doctor, but clearly not prepared to lead a great nation.
You know what I would say, there's 3,500 American Muslims in uniform. I have served with them in Iraq and Afghanistan. I went to a polling place in one of the elections in Afghanistan with a young man who grew up in Kabul, came to America, joined the American military, and we went to his high school where they were having an election, and he was so proud. So I want to let every American Muslim serving in uniform know that I honor your service. I want to be your commander-in-chief. Dr. Carlson is a good man, but he's created a religious test that our Constitution prohibits. And to the American Muslim community, this is your country too. We're all in it together. And to those American Muslims who've joined the American military to fight radical Islam, God bless you.
All right, Senator Lindsey Graham, who got high applause for his performance in the earlier debate the other night. Senator, thanks for being on The Real Story.
Thank you.